Hey guys, welcome to the little intro section we have here at the Hatecast, and we're back again this week, this time with a little bit of a different guest. Today I'm joined by Andrew Lorino. Now, Andrew is a spectacular listen, and guys, I'm not kidding you here, this dude is strong. He is the current state record holder, and I have to get this right, so if I fuck up in my speech, forgive me and move on. He is the state record holder in squat, bench, deadlift, and total at 198, raw classic with the USPA. Dude is a tank. And he also works, apparently, a very physical, labor-intensive job. So if you guys are interested to hear about how he does it and his take on things, this should be a good listen for you guys. With that being said, enjoy the show.
Okay.
Welcome to another episode of the Hatecast, and this time with a record holder. Drew?
Hey, man, yeah, I don't really view it as being spectacular or anything. I was just having a pretty good meet, and my bench press, I guess, is what I'm known for, but one of my training partners, he actually kind of got me into powerlifting in the beginning. Garrett Griffin, he's another 198er, but I think he's put up like 516, but he just competes in knee sleeves, so he would absolutely dominate me, and if he ever chose to go wrapped.
So let's take a step back here. Where can people find you? I'll link your Instagram and stuff like that. What got you into lifting?
Well, actually, it's a pretty long story. I was always into being in the gym just because my dad, my uncle, and my grandpa, lifting weights, playing sports. My dad was a great left-handed pitcher. My uncle did wrestling all through high school and weightlifting and powerlifting. My grandpa was just, a Vietnam-era Marine, and he was just always in shape. And I guess that kind of got me started, but what got me started competing in powerlifting was actually at my birthday party in 2011. I ended up getting ran over.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so it was kind of a whole fucked up ordeal. Guy lost control of his motorcycle, Buell 1200 to be exact, so it is not a small bike and
some
whatsoever.
Horsepower, yeah.
So he did about 40-45 miles per hour into me, hit me. Bike went off of me and up the side of my Mustang, and I just remember being at the back of my car, then at the front of my car, and so I jumped up to my feet and we went to the emergency room, and about the next 5-6 months were absolute hell. Had to wait 2 months for the swelling to go down enough to do an MRI report on my leg, and then a 2-page report later I had a partially torn Achilles tendon, my meniscus was nuked, my ACL had completely popped, I think I'm saying it correctly, edema all over.
Right, yeah.
I didn't break anything somehow, but I had a lot of fractures. Nothing completely broke. And my foot was pointed inside for a few months. So
wow.
that was just kind of a hellish thing to live through. And, I was a blue-collar worker back then, too, working for a local gas company. So I was out of work for a while. And I just remember them saying, we're not sure what you're going to be like after this. We may have to surgically put your foot back in. We don't know because we can't do the MRI report. And after 2 months, I finally got that done, like I said. And I just kind of been spiteful, I guess, because they said, we don't know the extent of how this is going to affect the rest of your life. So I was like, well, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just going to kind of go on my own and do my own thing. And I had a new ACL put in, and I just kind of threw the crutches down one day, denied physical therapy, I told them I didn't need to pay them a bunch of money to learn how to walk again because, I had done it before, so I don't need somebody to tell me when to move my foot and when not to.
Yeah.
And I started from there.
Well, that's quite I had no idea it was, that's quite an ordeal. I mean, so when it came to the actual injury, I mean, on a pain level, I mean, it must have been pretty bad, right? I mean, laying in agony.
Well, since it was my birthday party, I had about 6 Guinnesses in me, so
okay.
I felt pretty decent, at the time. She was just my girlfriend, but my ex-wife, we were just laying there in the emergency room, and I remember A New Hope being on television, so I was pretty excited about that. And then the pain just set in. I guess finally the alcohol had worn off, and it was the most excruciating goddamn thing I've ever felt in my life. So they came in, they held me down, and they shot me full of Dilaudid, and that's all I remember from the rest of that night.
Hey, I've been there. Mine wasn't so dramatic, but I had gallbladder surgery, and they gave me some good to get me to sleep. And it was just morphine, thankfully, but Dilaudid, man, that's crazy. So so basically it turned the maybe 7 or 8 on the pain scale up to a 10, up to 11.
It was horrific, dude. Every morning when I would get out of bed, I would have to kind of pull my leg because it was all wrapped, and I mean the tire tore off a lot of fucking skin, and it was just bad, man. And I would have to wait for the blood to rush down into my foot and everything. It was excruciating. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I know people have been through far worse. It was just, that's the worst thing I've ever been through. But my leg still doesn't fully function correctly. Like, I cannot sit Indian style where people sit on their feet. Like, my leg does not close that way anymore. But I did get back a lot of mobility through my uncle. He got into grappling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Gracie Baja School. And him and I got into that together, and I grappled on and off for about 2.5 years. And I got a lot of function and mobility back through that, and I was powerlifting at the same time. And it complements each other pretty well.
Yeah. So, just so people are aware, your story is literally you're a powerlifter now, right? Correct? You compete in what federation do you compete in, or do you have a federation?
I started a long time ago when I was 16. I'd compete with my uncle just to hang out, and I use the term compete very loosely. I was by no means a force or anything, and I still don't really consider myself to be a force. But I started at Paul Fletcher's House of Power, which he's a great dude. He does a lot. In fact, I think he has actually a Special Olympian team that he coaches. He's just an all-around good dude. So
I've heard of him. Yeah.
He was the name back in the day, Bryce, for powerlifting and stuff like that. And then, I took that break and everything and started working. But I would say I've been competing since Garrett got me into it, June 2013. So
2013, okay. So you've been at this a while, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been a long road, and the way that I got into it was, back into it, I should say, was I was like, well, shit, I've learned how to walk again correctly. I didn't think I would ever be able to do that, to the extent I could, and I was like, you know what? Let's give him the ultimate fuck you. I think I'm going to start powerlifting. So, I was like, how can I really get into this? And luckily enough, I'd always been a really big animal fan. So they have this thing on Animal's website, the forum and stuff like that. And I noticed that Garrett had lived here. And I was like, well, shit, they do these ABC things, these Animal Barbell Club things. I was like, I wonder if I could actually get Garrett to come. And I did, man. I organized it. Garrett responded quickly. He's a super nice guy. Him and his girlfriend at the time is now his wife. They both came and we got a group together, and it was either 2012 or very early 2013. And that day, Garrett, who was already, I think back then, man, he had to be at least top 10 in his weight class.
What was his weight class?
198. Like I said,
198. Okay.
all he has to do is switch to wraps for one meet, dude, and he would kick my ass. But he
Yeah.
taught me that day how to properly bench. And I've always been a fan of, if I wanted to learn something, I wanted to learn from the best.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to go ask a poor man how to become a millionaire. So he taught me that day how to bench, and immediately learning how to arch and plant your feet and not just do the typical bro bench press. My bench went up 20 pounds that day just from learning how to wrap my wrist correctly. And I believe I actually still have his wraps. He gave me his wraps from that year in the cage. He benched 550, I think, and he gave me his Iron Rebel Rhino wraps, and I still got him.
That's awesome.
So, dude, he's a great guy, man. We still train together, and you know, I'll go over there every now and then. And him and his side man, Jared Dagry, he owns Bode Apparel, which is huge in the powerlifting industry. They're both good guys, and you know, I've just stuck around them for a while. And 2013, fast forward to that was my first meet with a pathetic 1228 total at 198, and because of my knee, I couldn't break parallel for, I think, like a 385-pound squat or something like that.
Yeah.
And on my third attempt, I was getting ready to bomb out the meet, and I was like, well, shit, I didn't come all the way up here to Hattiesburg to just, you know, bomb out of a meet. So we're going to go try ass to grass. And
Well, now you did say that you had both a meniscus and ACL injury, right? From
what I remember on my MRI report, I lost it in between my divorce or something like that. I don't know where the shit it is, but I had a partially torn Achilles tendon, all kinds of stuff, man. My ACL was just gone. Most of my meniscus is gone. But because I was young, and I mean I still am young, they put back in an ACL, and I actually went to a really good doctor for that. He operates on all the players for LSU. So, man,
well, just so you guys know, I mean, just so you guys kind of wrap your head around this, gaining mobility back after something like a meniscus or a ACL issue is pretty difficult in and of itself. And now this guy's squatting and doing all these wonderful things. I mean, it really is a testament to how far you've come. I mean, I have respect for you for that.
Thank you, man.
It's crazy, but I'll let you continue on with your story. So we're up to 2013.
Yeah, and it was my first meet, and on my third attempt, I just remembered, shit, I've got to bury this. You know, I have to go where it's excruciating and just keep going. And you know when you can hear something pop and shit, but you can actually hear it kind of inside your head? Yeah. I just remember a full symphony of shit going off, but I got it. And then I stayed in the meet.
Well, in powerlifting, that is the goal. I mean, get the weight up or die trying.
Oh yeah, and especially in USPA, man. You get a squat in USPA, you got it, because they don't give shit away.
Yeah, yeah. And is that the federation you're currently competing with?
Absolutely. That's the only one that I've done so far, actually.
Okay. So, how did your next meet go? So you totaled a 12. What was it? 12.
I think like 12:28 at 198.
12:28 at 198. Okay.
It just kind of progressively went from there. I forget how many meets I've done in between then and last Saturday, but in between them, like I said, man, I've been pretty blessed with the people I've been around. I had a guy there. Shit, what was his name? A dude I had met, Frank, and a really good bench presser, Eric Downey. And Eric had messaged me after that first meet back, and he said, you know, you live by us. He said, why don't you come train with us and Jesse Kellum? And I said, okay. So I didn't know at the time, but I mean, Jesse Kellum is, even Louis Simmons talks about Jesse Kellum, as Jesse's trained everybody, and he was a world record holder for a long time, and he's even trained Saints players. Yeah. And he taught Louis a thing or two. I don't think Louis Simmons started implementing board work until Jesse told him about it.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I've heard Louis talk about it in his podcast.
Oh, it's on the internet now, man. They can quote you on it all day. But no, it'd be fine. No, it's you know, people underestimate the amount that board work can help too. especially if you're the sticking point.
Absolutely.
Go ahead and go over that a little bit, just so people who are unaware what exactly is board work and who should look into implementing it. I mean,
Well,
I will go on and say this before you start though. I will say that absolutely everybody. You know how you were talking about just hanging out in the competing with your uncle. You said, right?
yeah.
So just hanging out like that, going to meets and everything. I think everybody who wants to do this, even as a extreme hobby, not necessarily professionally, but as an extreme hobby, go and do exactly that. Hang out at your local meets. Go meet the movers and shakers. Go meet some of the promoters. Go meet some of the other powerlifters. I mean, be around the atmosphere. Take yourself and put yourself in there, you know? So, but anyway, I know that was a little off tangent, but going to board work.
It isn't.
Yeah,
It's absolutely right on. Like I said, there I was all those years ago standing there talking to Garrett Griffin. And I mean, he was a god of powerlifting at the time and everything, and he still has one of the best bench presses in history. And, he's talking to me like any other dude. These are pretty humble people for the most part in this sport. There really isn't too many assholes. And if they are, they kind of get outed and just pushed aside.
Yeah, or they just end up fizzling out. I mean, you see all the time these guys who come into the powerlifting scene that just kind of do one meet, piss a promoter or even several other competitors off by just not necessarily being nasty, but just you can tell when someone's an asshole, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can tell when someone's just being a dick, and generally the guys at the top level, they're all, bar a few, are pretty nice guys. Just because, powerlifting is one of those things where the old meaning of it, right, was hold each other and, not hold each other, but build each other up. Build upon something, it's a brotherhood.
Really do, man. And Louis, if you can't tell, I'm a huge West Side whore. I fucking love me some West Side and Conjugate.
Hey, that's fine.
Louis just wrote another article, a topic about it, and people should really pay attention to that man, because when he's gone, there's a lot of knowledge that's going to die with that man. And
yeah, look at all the...
said, he's tired of all the powerlifters bashing each other and shit. He's like, we're all in the same sport, so why don't we come together? Because, people don't take us very seriously. Not like CrossFit. We don't have those big-ass sponsors and everything like that.
Do you have a disdain for CrossFit? Or are you just, it's not for you?
I don't have a disdain for anybody trying to improve their life and their quality. What I have against CrossFit is what they consider coaches. Because I have never been an Olympic lifter, nor do I think I would have the capacity to ever be one. But from what I've seen of it, it's not something that I think someone else is qualified to teach someone if they've only gone to a 3-day seminar.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things too where bad coaches, even in stuff like powerlifting and somewhat when it comes to bodybuilding too. Bad coaches can completely ruin athletes.
Oh man, and in the Instagram, Bryce, with all these
everybody's an online coach. Don't worry about it.
Everybody's a fucking coach. Everybody.
Yeah.
They don't have any credentials or anything. And the same thing pertains to my craft, which I am a pipe fitter by trade and a steel worker. You can go to a fucking trade school. You can go hit the books. You can study all the different ways that you can run a bead, welding with stick, TIG, or MIG or something like that. But
yeah,
everything's different when you get in the field. And there ain't no fucking teacher for, just good old hands-on.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with that. My one of my nephews is actually when he retired from the Navy, he got a job because he was an engineer in the Navy. He got a job welding and then went on to basically inspect railroads, the few remaining that were operational. But inspect railroads, and basically it is, some of the stuff that he spots, having worked in the field and being an engineer for the military and stuff like that, it's just it's one of those things where I couldn't do the job, and
oh,
people
yeah.
And I just have major respect for people who master the art, and that brings us back to, powerlifting and CrossFit and all that stuff. Like, if you don't have somebody who's been doing this a while, I wouldn't say don't take their advice, because there's a lot of educated people who don't look the part. I know that. But at the same time, like, you want somebody who's at least competed, thought about competing, wants to compete, something like that, so at least they know where you're coming from, especially if you're an athlete. So,
another Louis thing, he says, really investigate your coach. Look at their success rate, but also look at their injury rate and the injury rate of the people that they're coaching.
Now, I do kind of want to bring that up. You're deep in the powerlifting, and I'm more in the bodybuilding physique world. Because I plan to see if I can't get away with doing classic, but I might be a little too tall. I might actually have to go into super heavyweight.
I'm pretty happy that they brought that. I look into bodybuilding a little bit, but I'm happy that they brought that the classic look back, because it's, I'm with Dorian Yates on this, who's my favorite Mr. Olympia of all time. I'm not taking anything away from their hard fucking work, because it is grueling and insanely mentally taxing, especially the dieting y'all do. But, dude, the figures compared from now to the past, I'm just not seeing it.
Well, I will say that has more to do with people not doing the things that the guys in the 80s and the 90s and all that stuff already knew to do. Like, they want to reinvent the wheel almost.
Right.
When it comes to certain things, like, especially when it comes to training and I mean, I know there's a lot of new information, but not much in the realm of training has changed, in my opinion anyway. Like, you have a muscle, you make it grow because of adaptations of stimuli. I mean, that's the whole purpose behind, like, specifically bodybuilding. Powerlifting is a little bit different, central nervous system, hey. But, you make it grow. It's not rocket science, but everybody has a formula to sell, That's why we're a fan of free information here over at Chaos and Pain. It's one of those things where, this Hatecast is, kind of a brainchild of bringing a collective of minds so that you guys could have little nuggets of information. And, that the classic physique is literally the combination of everything the guys learned in the 90s and bringing back that 90s physique.
That X-Man look, that Arnold and all the greats had, with the tiny waist, the
ab
massive
vacuums,
lats, shoulders, chest. I love that look. I'm not a fan of the tortoise gut. I'm just not.
No. I mean, there's some guys that are out there right now that don't have that tortoise gut. I mean, a great example of that would be
Flex Lewis, dude. Flex Lewis.
Yeah. And Kevin LeBron, I know he didn't have the best legs a couple years back, and I haven't caught up with the current Olympia, but Kevin LeBron, he came back, and I know he's retired now, but I think he had a good.
Too?
Yeah, he got in shape in his 50s, and I mean, he was on another podcast, and he was just sitting there flexing in the camera, like he was. I mean, he'd be like I am, like I would be that proud if I was 50 years old looking like that. I mean,
absolutely, Jesus. Man. I mean, the dude looks like he's in his fucking 30s still.
And he took time off, he lost size, and then he decided he wanted to do it again, and it's almost like he just willed that muscle to come back on. I don't know how he does it. So, he just got into shape.
You got it, dude, you got it.
I know. But back to the, I know we got off on a tangent there. Back to the board press. How would you go about implementing that for somebody? And why would they want to?
Well, I think it's honestly for anybody wanting to get stronger. But the most success I've actually had was I've had two different coaches, I would say, because in my time from, I guess, screwing a bit from 2013 on up, I was, again, my friend Eric pulls me aside one day in the gym, and I was getting training from somebody else, and he said, dude, he's like, He's like, yeah, I noticed your total's going up pretty nicely. He said, you want to know why? I was like, yeah. He was like, you're paying somebody right now to teach you a bastardized version of conjugate and West Side. And he said, you know, all that shit's on the internet, right? And I was like, well, what? I said, so, and I'm guilty of not, looking as in depth, especially somebody like Jamie. I mean, Jamie is the most thorough, in-depth person I've ever met. And
Yeah.
so I got to researching and stuff like that, and I said, damn. I said, Eric was right. And then a few months later, this West Side pro shows up at our gym one day who works out and co-owns, or he owns a piece of Paul Fletcher's House of Power over in Baton Rouge. Well, Paul...
Small world.
Yeah, and it is. Paul, unfortunately, suffered one of the wraths of one of the historic floods that we had, and the poor guy, had to relocate his gym.
Yeah.
So, this guy, John Shackelford, came over to Highway 22, where I was training at the time, when I still lived in the Covington area, which is north of New Orleans. And he just comes in there, doesn't say a goddamn thing, nods. Dude's wearing a black hoodie. I think he had on like a Slayer shirt you could see underneath the cut V in his hoodie.
I respect it.
He just starts squatting ultra wide at the monolift. And he's not moving up by 10s and 25. No, it's plate after plate after fucking plate. Then he hooks on reverse bands, and before you know it, he's up to like 800 pounds. I said, Jesus fucking Christ. I said, who is this guy? So, long story short, the bromance starts. It's he used to be an old West Side pro that used to train with Louis, and so I get to talking to him, and he kind of takes me under his wing, and he really shows me conjugate in West Side. Yeah. And I started talking to him, and I was like, I hear all the hearsay and all the bullshit, and I take everything with a grain of salt until I investigate it or see for myself. And everybody always has the same old excuse, oh, West Side is for geared lifters, it's for geared lifters. Well, it's not actually for geared lifters. They all do gear because that's where the big money meets are.
Right.
So, listening to Louis and his story and history, I started investigating for myself. Conjugate system has actually been around, and it was developed by Russian scientists, biomechanic experts, and doctors and stuff. And it was
those damn Russians.
Yeah, dude, the Russians are years ahead of us in lifting and strength. They been, and they always will be.
I know. The Russian weightlifters, especially if you look in history, the Olympic lifters, the Russian Olympic lifters, their form is impeccable. They hit every single number. I mean, Ed Cohn, which is the GOAT.
Oh yeah,
he's
the GOAT.
The GOAT. And he kind of had that approach where he had numbers that he wrote down beforehand in his training and then hit them in the gym. Well, kind of similar to the way Russians did. And
that's the other thing too, Bryce. And I don't want to go off on a huge tangent, but I have a terrible memory, and before I forget, speaking of the GOAT, you will get so many people that say, well, that's not what Ed Cohn did. Well, that's not what Kevin Oak does. Or that's not what Jamie Lewis does. It's like, you are not those fucking people. Why don't you get on a system that works for the majority of people and quit worrying about the absolute elites? Because they're just freaks of nature. They're at places that you'll probably never get to.
There's a great thing that comes to mind. I mean, so I don't know if you know this, but like everybody's kind of origin story when it comes to the guys that are successful when it comes to weightlifting, bodybuilding, all that stuff, it seems to me like they always tend to have like, oh, when I got into the gym, I was strong. They always have that mentality where they're like, yeah, I was benching 315 at 16. It's like, okay, but what about for everybody else? I don't know about you, but I started out like, I don't know if you know my story at all, but I started out extremely obese. I was 430 pounds of not muscle. It was bad. And I could not bench the bar, right? I had this misconception that 100 curls with 5-pound dumbbells was enough to get my arms huge. I did it for a, superficial reason, and, now that reason is null and void. But when it comes down to it, like, I've experimented with every single diet there is out there, every single style of lifting out there, just to find what works for me. And I think people are just so afraid to experiment because some of the popular guys out there do things a certain way. Now, for me personally, like, having my lifts written down like a vague outline, kind of like in a block periodization type of fashion, right? Works for me. But that doesn't work for everybody.
No,
whereas you have, conjugate and West Side, and that's not going to work for everybody. But I will encourage everybody out there to try.
Here's the thing. Conjugate does, and I know I'm probably going to receive a lot of hate. It does work for everybody because, and Louis will tell you too, and he says it in his podcast and all his writings, it's not a program, it's a system. And what separates it from everything else. And before we got off on that last rant...
I know. It's bad with me. But go ahead.
It's bad with me too, man. But the Russians developed that system, conjugate, before fucking gear was ever even thought of. They developed that system because...
Now, when you say gear, you're talking about...
This was in the 60s.
Yeah.
They hated the United States so much that the only way that they could get to us was through the Olympics.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, what yields the most medals in the Olympics? Strength-oriented things. And for some reason, we got fucking interested in swimming and tennis.
It'd be okay.
So they developed the conjugate system as a way to escape poverty. Now, when you say poverty, you're not talking about United States poverty where, you got a loaded fridge, you could possibly be overweight, and you got a flat screen TV. No, you're talking about the only cool thing you saw that day was you didn't fucking freeze to death in, 2-3 feet of snow. Like, they have real poverty over there.
Yeah.
So that was their thing to escape poverty, was they developed a superior training system that does work for everyone because you tailor it to your weak points, which brings in the boards, the bands, the chains. The boards have their places to really hit stick-borne training.
Right.
But where you really get power is through the use of, I'm much more of a fan of bands than I am chains. Because you have to keep accelerating throughout the entire lift in order to press, squat, or pull, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And I even like to use it on accessory work because the more you push or pull it, the harder it becomes. And it becomes exponentially harder very quickly. So that was the one thing that I took away from this last meet was my second attempt at pressing was, I think, 435, and I ended with a 446 quite easily. And my training partner, Leanne, who's a fucking terror to behold, I think she competes in the 165 class, and she's a girl that can own 405 in knee sleeves, and she can pull 415.
Oh, damn.
Oh, dude, she's incredible. So we formed a little conjugate group, and we're starting to gain a lot of momentum, which is good. But she pulled me aside, and she's like, you got faster throughout the entirety of that lift. And now my coach is Laura Phelps, who I think is one of the only females ever, or maybe one of the only people ever to total, and yes, it's in gear, but who gives a shit? She's totaled 11 times her body weight.
Yeah.
And that's what the goal is small gains. Like I said, I started with a 1228 total.
Yeah.
And last Saturday was 1659, which it could have been 40 pounds higher had I not been stupid and greedy in my second attempt on deadlifts and not made a 50-pound jump.
Hey, it happens.
I know. I got stupid, but...
More often than you think, man. I've seen people smoke their openers, and then, there was this one dude, I can't remember his name, but he jumped up like 100 pounds, and he just crumbled. It was insane.
It's a game of chess when you get to meet day, man. You've got to take everything into account. And you and Jamie just touched deeply on this. Let's start with the basics. did you fucking have a good night of sleep? You know,
That is
sometimes you don't.
paramount. Yeah.
Is it hot outside? Is the meat outside? Do they have AC? How's the warm-up area? Do they have a stiff bar? Do they have a straight bar? If you're a sumo puller and all they have are straight bars over there in the warm-up area, you're kind of fucked.
Ooh.
So
That's rough.
you got to take all that shit into consideration for the meet day. And like you said, it all comes with experience and time. You know, don't worry about what the greats do. You're not the great. You're you. And I don't like the age-old, oh, it's you against you. No, it's still a competition, you know. Go out there to try to win. Even if you come in last place, you'll have more fun if you're trying to compete than you are if you just want a fucking participation trophy.
I'm in complete agreement.
Like a game of chess.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I was just talking about that with the wife the other day. It's like these people that are saying, you know, I placed 12th out of 12 people, but I'm just competing against me, so it's fine. Like, no, you still lost. That's okay.
Yeah, no, lost
improve, come back. You know?
Yeah. Now, if you say you placed 12 out of 12, but you were giving it your all, and you were trying to kick number 11's ass, I have a lot more respect for you. But if you go out there and you're just like, oh, it was me against me, it's like, no, motherfucker, it's you against you in the gym when you were training. It's like, when you go to competition or meet day, whatever they call it, there's a reason why there's rankings. There's a reason why there's first, second, third place. You know, go out there to win. It's okay to be competitive.
Hold on,
don't be an asshole about it.
Okay, I think we got you back. Yeah, just don't be an asshole about it. Yeah, I mean, you know, and
exactly,
wouldn't you say that healthy competition breeds better lifts?
Oh, absolutely.
It breeds better performance. People want to see, when they go to a powerlifting meet, they want to see people lift heavy things and then put them back down.
Exactly, man.
I mean, that is what they want. The heavier you go, the more fired up that crowd's going to get. I mean, if you are like this guy and you get a state record, people are going to go nuts. And, you know, it's all about, you know, having a little bit of healthy competition in there. I think that really does breed a better environment for.
And like I said, dude, even Laura told me, you know, we talked about my second attempt on deadlifts and stuff, and she said, you know, and Louis says this too, strength is measured in time. Small gains over years add up to a big total.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. I mean, I came from a 1228 total, which is horrific. And now I'm, you know, on the cusp of 1700 at the same weight class. I'm not special. I've never had insane strength. I'm just too stubborn and stupid to quit. So I always put it this way. I always show up for fucking training day. I don't miss training. Whether or not I just 16'd out at work, you know, sweating pipe all day long, welding, I do what the hell I have to do to show up to train. Even if it's a shitty training session, it's always going to be better than you not training at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's another issue too, is, you know, people who do this as a hobby, they have a problem with adherence. And it seems like you're very driven on that front. Do you ever miss a meal?
Oh yeah, absolutely, dude. I just now really got serious because I started, like I said, man, I'm not the brightest, but I started with the age-old thing of, oh, powerlifters have to consume, you know, just an insane amount of calories, you know, however you can get it, pizza, M&Ms, all the bullshit and stuff. Well, I went on another rampage like that earlier this year because I could not break 204 to 205 to save my life. I said, fuck. I said, you know what? I want to try it to 220s. I really do. I want to see what it would take. So I started down in Oreos, ice cream, everything every night that I could until I was just sick to my stomach. Finally, the scale started moving, and I arrived at my heaviest, 222. I was getting a lot stronger, but I looked and I felt like shit.
Yeah. So you looking to kind of fine-tune that?
Oh, no, I'm back down to, I just weighed myself tonight after I got home. I'm back down to 209. And I know you and Jamie have talked about it before, but I'm doing majority that vertical diet by Stan,
Yeah.
because I mean I don't think
He's the
he's
world's
bullshitting
strongest.
anybody.
He's the world's strongest IFBB pro.
He
And
is, and I mean he's
I don't
another dude in
have
his 50s, and he looks amazing.
any problem with his diet per se. I believe that someone just starting out, it kind of gives me the cringe factor when it comes to how restrictive it can be if you follow just the letter to the T of what he says.
Well,
You
I
know?
started talking to a friend of mine, and I'll give him a shout out too, because him and his wife they're one of the first people I made friends with in Mississippi, Ryan Newell, and
Yeah.
he just recently started taking on clients for dieting. And I tell you what, if you're going to be a diet coach, you better look the part. And this dude, I think a few weeks ago, man, he's at maybe just right below 200 or just right above 200. He
Yeah.
repped out 585 for 10 on deadlifts. And
That's
he
what's
looks
up.
like he could step on stage and do a bodybuilding show the very next week.
Yeah.
So he's got that background and that knowledge, and he talked to me about it, and he said, it's not how I would do it, but the vertical diet is a good groundwork for somebody that really has no concept on eating the way that we should, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I mean, I'm a bit of a health freak. I mean, Jamie makes fun of me about this all the time, but I'm eating stuff like dark chocolate. I'm making sure I have broccoli every day. I'm
Oh,
making
me
sure I
too,
have
man. I
plenty of
love dark
greens.
chocolate.
I'm making sure I have plenty of greens in my diet. I'm making sure that I have multiple different meat sources, just because there's so many different benefits that people completely, and it's tasty food. Holy shit! Like, I'm eating, fucking sweet cream butter and all that other stuff, and having my chicken fried rice and stuff like that too. Like, it's wonderful, and I feel so healthy when I do it, and I feel, compared to what I was, of course, before I
Oh,
started this and all
absolutely, man.
that, but
And
huh?
I'll tell you what, dude, just after a few weeks of doing it and stuff like that, I mean, I think Jamie, because he was one of the big reasons for my success this past weekend. Jamie did my cut and my rehydration protocol, and I cut 18 pounds that week, and I was almost back 18 pounds before I went to sleep. So,
That's
like I
what's
said,
up.
Jamie is a fucking lord of knowledge on
Yeah.
dieting and just advice in general in this sport, because he's just so knowledgeable, and he's an insanely intelligent individual.
Where I think it went wrong when it comes to diet is you had, and I know I'm going to piss off everybody on Reddit, but you had the if it fits your macros crowd, and they literally replaced everything with just empty shit. And I mean, I'm not kidding. I watched somebody have like this spiked protein powder, amino spiked protein powder, like the bottom barrel cheap stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then they had like a entire package of Oreo cookies because it met their macros, and then they were just done for the day.
Yeah, and I tell you what, and scientifically, you can get away with that shit if you're gonna burn more calories than you take in, fine. But you know what? You're gonna look and feel like shit too. Yeah, you may lose weight, but you're also gonna lose muscle mass. You're also gonna feel like shit. Your body literally, and talking to people a lot more knowledgeable, like my buddy, about dieting, is your body literally does not know what to do with that shit once it's inside your body.
Well,
Like Oreos,
it also starts to lack things, you
yeah,
know. Um, it's just like being bigger, and that's kind of what I harken back to, because that's it was really easy just to let everything just go. It was real easy, and I know, trust me, thinking about it now, it took a lot of work for me to get that big. Like, I had to put some effort into stuffing my face past of where I needed to be, but it's kind of like, it's exactly like that. Like, it's easy day to day, but when you have to pay the price, it sucks, right?
yes,
Mine cost me my gallbladder and a little bit of macular degeneration, my eyesight. So like I need glasses all the time now, and I don't have a gallbladder, and I thankfully don't have, much loose skin, but it's one of those things.
That's fantastic, man, because I know where you told me you came from, and the fact that you look the way you do through just the dedication, discipline, and trial and error. You're definitely damn lucky for no loose skin.
Yeah, and, I had the added pleasure of my mom asking me if I was on drugs while I was losing weight. So that was a pleasure. Like, and I started messing with her a little bit, too, because I started going, no. And I started, anyway, I'm a horrible person. But it's exactly like that. Like, eventually, if you keep just peddling shit into your body, you will have to pay the price eventually.
You will. It'll always be there, man. And what the wake-up call for me was, I don't, I guess I look all right. I would say maybe I'm around 13 to 15% body fat, or I was. I'm probably down to more about maybe 11 now, I would think. I got blood test results back, and everything came out, immaculate, except for my blood sugar. It was borderline almost to type 2 diabetes. Now, can some of that be genetic? Yes. But was it probably due to the fact of all the bullshit I was eating? Absolutely.
Yeah. I will say something about, Stan Efferding while we were talking about him. And his 10-minute walks is powerful. It's got research. It's got data behind it. Yeah, it's got data behind it. It's there's a study I can link in the description below. Like, I'm not saying like walk after every meal like he does, because he's just a complete another maniac on his own. He chases every little percentage, and I do too. But
dude, he carries meals to the fucking airport like if he's traveling. Like he is.
I've done it.
He is the epitome of discipline.
That's the difference too. Is like if you talk to people at the top end of any sport, they're willing to do what it takes. Like the people who generally are hard workers, because let's face it, at the top end there are those who just lazy about it. They don't. They don't really need to do much to get show ready, and that's fine. I'm not hating on them. They're just using what their God-given talents are.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, the guys who have to put in the work, the guys who don't really have spectacular genetics already, they're the ones that usually start chasing those every little percentages. And I do feel like Stan Efferding has chased every little percentage he can. And maybe that's because he went to business school. I don't know. But
he's a super intelligent individual too. And like you said, he doesn't just speak. He speaks and he cites references to studies exactly like Jamie does to back up claims. And that doesn't make it a claim, that makes it, factual.
But at the same time, there's things that everybody gets wrong. And I'm not completely sold on his theory about microwaving rice and potatoes. So
no, I can't go that extreme, dude. I don't have access to, I'm a pipe fitter for the railroad, so I can't really bring a fucking stove out there, and
oh yeah.
I got to make my living first, and my living is not powerlifting, and I don't think anybody's living is actually powerlifting. It's all the business entities that could come, with that, like Stan has done. He's become an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Well, when you're in the spotlight like that, like you pick up sponsorships, you pick up business deals. Like I know Phil Heath has a deal with headphones now.
Oh shit! Okay.
Like that's sort of like diversifying your outreach to not just.
That's a smart business approach, because if you're just 19 or 17, and you're a dude that's looking to get into. You want to get bigger, you want to go in the gym, just like everybody. Everybody starts this mission out for the same reason. They want to look better. Well, they're going to start looking up basic shit like Mr. Olympia and stuff. Oh, they see Phil Heath. Oh, what kind of headphones he has? Well, I need those. So that's probably a smart move by that company.
Yeah. But it's just one of those things where, you can make a living doing it. It's just you have to be on it.
Absolutely.
You have to be on it. But with that being said, let's talk a little bit about what you plan on doing when it comes to your training? Are you going to say that you're still going to compete at the 220s?
No,
Your next lift?
I just competed at 220 twice in my life. I did a wrapped meet at 220 because for some reason, like I said, I'm mildly retarded sometimes. I didn't have a scale for some reason. So I went to weigh-ins, and I was like, man, I'm going to be like 210, 212. And my friend who was weighing me in, you know, he puts on great meets. He's a great person, John Micah. He looks at me, and he goes, Lorino, he's like, you're fucking 201. He's like, what the hell? I'm like, well, fuck it. I said, I just ate, you know, I just swigged 2 Pedialytes and ate a bag of M&Ms. So I guess I do have a pretty high metabolism just from the nature of my work in general.
Oh, but, yeah, you're burning through calories, man.
Especially with this New Orleans sun, dude. It's fucking hot here.
Oh, so, I know. I'm down here in Arkansas, so we're starting to see a little bit of it. So.
Oh, yeah, dude. I think the heat index today was around 100, so it's definitely starting. But, and then the other time I competed, 220, I did my first knee sleeve meet in January, just to do it and have fun. But 198 is where my heart's at. It's where I belong. I feel more comfortable walking around at that weight. I can perform better at my job. And, you know, it's better on my bank account because buying Oreos and fucking ice cream every night adds up at the end of the month.
Well, hey, man, I got a wife and I got a daughter, and, you know, our food bill is like $250 a week.
It's
because of me. You know?
It's astronomical, man.
I'm sitting here maintaining weight right now at 3,800 calories. It's crazy.
I think I'm at about, Ryan and I added it up the other night. I'm at a little over 3,000, and I am vastly just losing weight. I was 216, like I said, when I went to sleep, or 215 that night when I went to sleep Friday after Jamie's rehydration protocol. And now I just weighed myself, you know, after I got done training. I was 209, so just cleaning up your diet, you know, you'll strip out bloating, inflammation, and especially when your body can digest and quickly utilize, you know, shit that it doesn't take, you know, it's not pounding through 5 different preservatives like deck cleaner and shit that they put on some cereals.
Hey, that deck cleaner tastes good going down though.
It does.
Not gonna fucking lie. Favorite cereal. Favorite cereal right now.
Reese's Puffs.
Reese's Puffs. Okay, good man. But yeah, it's one of those things where you clean up, and we have harped on food these last couple podcasts before the last one, and it's because people severely underestimate the importance of that sort of, you know, performance boost you can have by either losing body fat, adding in foods. I mean, you start adding in less protein shakes, and I know we sell protein powder, I get it, and it's fantastic.
Well, it's a necessity sometimes. I mean, you know, you don't have a meal event like I said, you could be a field person, blue collar person like I am, you know, and I mean, I can attest to Chaos and Pain's quality and their products because I became, you know, not infatuated, but I downloaded Jamie's books, Prepare for War and Destroy the Opposition, were 2 of the first powerlifting books I'd ever gotten years ago, and just reading Jamie's shit and the way that he writes makes you want to compete. So naturally, I became drawn to his products. And every single thing that he puts out does exactly what it says. And he's actually the person that kicked off my my wonderful girlfriend's weight loss journey. You know, she followed Jamie's easily laid out, just kind of a bastardized version of his Predator diet, and took Cannibal Claw, and dude, it just melted off.
How's she doing on that?
She's
everything
actually
going on good?
We hit a wall, which Jamie said would happen, and my buddy Ryan said would happen. When you diet so hardcore for so long, and he said your metabolism will stall out. Well, right. I'm consumed with work. She just got a new job working with, she's an autism behavioral specialist now. So I didn't really have time to, between the projects at work, to really sit down and investigate this. So I hired my buddy Ryan as her personal diet coach, and he got everything back on track. And a week later, she's down 4 pounds. So that wall has
been broken. Yeah.
Like I said, dude, if you ever want professional advice, seek out a professional.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to hear that. I mean, I fucking love hearing success stories from people.
Dude,
I mean, it gets me pumped.
I don't know what the hell Jamie did to dream up the concoction that is Cannibal Claw, but that shit fucking works.
Oh, probably a lot of caffeine. I can answer that. Probably a lot of. Yeah.
I know it's bronchiate rants.
Oh yeah, but yeah. Let's take a veer off to the left here. I want to get your opinion on something. Now, you're currently a geared powerlifter, right?
Well,
would you consider yourself?
I started competing in wraps because naturally my knee.
Right.
I was like, you know, if I'm gonna do this, I'm at least gonna be a little bit smarter about it. And Garrett, again, he got me into Iron Rebel. Was my first love with powerlifting gear.
Yeah.
And they make a damn good quality product. There's a reason why they're sold out all the time, because their shit works. So
high tensile strength stuff. I mean, that's what you want. You want something that's not going to, like, you know how many fucking wraps and everything just bust at the seams under
the market's flooded, dude. And you want somebody that stood the test of time. And I will tell you, the two best wraps I've ever used in my life, and I've gone through an astronomical amount of wraps because of my knee. I've always wanted to find what made my knee feel the most secure. That's why I've only once competed in sleeves, because the wrap just gives me that reassurance that, okay, everything's nice and tight, nothing's going to slide out of place. I don't know if it can happen, I'm sure it can, but it just makes me feel better. So that's why I started competing in knee wraps. Iron Rebel and Unbreakable Gear. I mean, those two people know how to produce some high quality shit that just... Unbreakable, really, it's in the name. The shit doesn't break. I just bought his new, I used the Destroyers for a long time, and I bought his new Enforcers, and those wraps, no, they're so aggressive, but at the same time, you don't feel like you could saw off your leg for, you know, surgery. Like, you can still have some feeling in it.
I wanted to know your opinion on geared versus raw and why there's such a heated debate. I never understood. Like I said, I'm not in the powerlifting clique. I'm more in the, you know, male beauty pageant that is bodybuilding.
I tell you what, man, everything has its place, and all the geared lifters, they're going to meets to compete against geared lifters.
Right.
So if it's allowed in their federation at the competition that they're at, I mean, does it allow them to do a lot more than they could do? Yes. But is there an art form to doing it? Absolutely. Man, I tell you what, I just out of curiosity, because I like fucking around with stuff, and I like having fun powerlifting, because as soon as this shit stops being fun, I don't want anything to do with it. And that's the other beautiful thing about Conjugate, is it changes every week, so you don't get burned out on doing the same shit over and over and over again. Right. So one day, I threw on a single ply suit. I'm short, so the straps didn't really fit, so I wore it as a pair of briefs. I squatted 700 pounds in sleeves and just the single ply briefs. I tried 750. The first one rolled over my head, and I fractured a couple of ribs against my belt. Well, me being a stubborn Sicilian, I wasn't going to have that shit. So the second one, I couldn't clear the rack. I had lowered the monolift some, and the bar bent, and I couldn't get it over the rack. Third one, I nailed it. So there is an art form to performing in gear, just from the little bit that I've experienced with it. And even my coach has recommended me, Laura told me to order, and Shaq, both. You know, Shaq's got a lot going on right now. He's had, I think, like 5 knee surgeries because he was squatting 900 something, and his kneecap ended on the side of his quad.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it, though.
Oh, dude, that poor dude. So that's why I got Laura, because I was like, Shaq's got enough on his fucking plate. You know, dude's just trying to be normal again. And and Laura and Shaq both told me get some Inzer Predators, the briefs. And it's great overload tools, dude. It's the same concept as people hating on gear, but they using slingshots every other week. It's like, what do you
Oh
think a
yeah.
slingshot is? It's a modified bench shirt that you just don't have to slip on.
Well, it's also I've always been a proponent of weightlifting belts, just
Oh, absolutely.
because just because they are a piece of equipment that you don't need to be a powerlifter to use. You're never pretty much going to have to do without it. I think all of the Raw federations still allow belts, right?
Yeah, I've had the
Yeah.
same belt, and
Unless
I'm
you're
not.
fucking Dan Green. Then you can
Uh,
fucking pull 900 without a belt, and then you're fine. But you still have to use straps, and people will give you
that's the
shit.
other thing, man.
So,
People tell me, oh, well, that's not what Dan Green does. It's like, look, you are not in the same universe as Dan Green, okay?
the aesthetics on that guy, too. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Say,
I
yeah,
mean,
say powerlifters are fat again. Say it. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm pretty sure Dan Green has like fucking just descended from the Azir, and he's just a god living among us because that dude is he's like God, my other favorite is Duffin. Dude,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty sure he just decides things on a whim. Like his last thing he did for I think he did it for the Special Olympics or something. He was like, I'm just gonna squat 800 pounds every day for 30 days straight.
Oh, yeah,
And he
no big
fucking
deal.
does it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no big
like
deal.
no big deal.
Yeah. But I was referring to, like, the whole... Why is there such an issue with it? I mean, it's
I
like the
think it's
same...
just pride and ego bullshit, dude.
Yeah?
I
Is it
mean,
those same people saying that sumo's cheating?
let me tell you what, man. I was just until today because I used to squat ultra wide because even though I got fucked up in a wreck, I've still always had awesome mobility because I grew up skating and
Yeah.
I would skate pretty much every day for hours and doing taekwondo and when I was little and transitioning to jujitsu and things like that. I've always had awesome mobility.
Yeah.
So squatting ultra wide, I had a tremendous carryover with hip strength to sumo. Well, now that I've started to get older and shit, just fucking hurts when you wake up, I'm like, maybe I should bring my squat stance in. So now I squat like a normal human being, and my sumo stopped being so powerful. So I was like, okay, well, what's the next bright thing to do? Well, you're utilizing more hamstrings because you're squatting closer.
Right.
So let's start pulling conventional. And today I pulled 585 after speed squats with about 50 or 60 in chains, and that was more than I just pulled at the meet Saturday.
Yeah. And I'm not really concerned with somebody using straps, gear, or whatever. Like, you go there to see the lifts, you know?
Absolutely, man. And look, it all comes
Um,
down to meet day, okay?
yeah. Yeah.
And the geared lifters, they're not weak fucking people without the gear on. I mean, I've been friends with Shaq for a few years now, and he's a multiply whore. He'll tell you first and foremost, fake tits and gear.
Yeah.
that's his fucking persona on it, and the dude is ungodly strong. And not only that, let me tell you how much of a badass this dude is. At a meet, right after the meet, he flatlined. Okay, he was squatting, and he felt something horrific happen in his stomach. Well, his intestines actually spilled out outside their lining of whatever they're behind. He
Oh,
finished.
shit.
He finished the fucking meet, had the people wheel him out of there, and he flatlined on the table an hour later or so and was brought back at a fucking powerlifting meet.
That's dedication.
Yeah, he is unholy, but he is. I love him to death. He's been a great mentor, and like I said, he's dealing with a lot. So I got Laura Phelps, sought her out, and that's who our entire conjugate team uses. We are the Wallachian Death Squad. Yes, I do have an infatuation with Vlad the Impaler, like Jamie does, and
Yeah.
that's kind of our I guess, mascot.
So
So I think,
where can they find, like, are y'all accepting members?
uh, pretty much, man. I mean, we don't view ourselves as, this elite bunch or anything. We just ask for dedication. You just want to come because I tell you what, dude, training alone just fucking sucks.
Yeah.
So when you got a team there and you're motivating each other, You know, like Leanne came to handle me the entire meet Saturday. She handed off to me, beat my back for deadlifts, you know, handed me my skull smash when I was ready for ammonia. And we just, you know, we brought it home. We're just there for each other. There's just something about having a team where y'all are on the same page. It just makes training better.
Okay, let's jump over to this ammonia topic that I wanted to kind of talk about. So,
absolutely.
You've been using. I've seen you use the skull smash in a couple different of your videos, maybe just a few of them.
That is how I became notorious. Was for a while people didn't even know my goddamn name. They're just like, "That's the skull smash dude," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, if that's what I'm going to be known for, fine." So. Even the actual skull smash dude, Steve Welch, took a notice of that, and he's like, he just offered me a sponsorship one day, and I was like, dude, you realize I'm kind of nobody, huh? And he was like, he's just such a good dude. He's a former Marine Corps vet. He owns a powerlifting gym up in St. Louis, Missouri. And he does so much for the industry, man. He's sponsored more meets than white girls brag about having donuts.
Okay.
You know, everybody
spice up in this bitch.
Everybody now on Instagram is a fucking donut connoisseur for some reason.
Hey, to be fair, it's one of my foods that we can't really have in the house because you ever have, and I know it's, you know, somebody who, you know, doesn't have a problem controlling their diet and everything like that. I get it, but everybody has that one food where they just like, if it's there, I'm gonna eat it.
Oh,
like, don't fucking put it there.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, you're bragging about being a donut connoisseur. It's like, that's not that impressive. Who the fuck doesn't like... I'm pretty sure Al-Qaeda fucking likes donuts. Like, everybody likes donuts.
I don't know about that, but, man, it's... Yeah, I don't know, man. It's one of those foods that I just can't have in the house. It's fucking... fucks me up mentally. See, it's sitting there like, I could have those. Those are mine. I bought those with money. I don't need to waste $5. I can justify this $5 donut.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you what, man. We got something down here in the South, and there is a war between... Well, now we're getting these gourmet donut places. I haven't tried them yet, but...
Oh, yeah?
If you're from New Orleans, you know about Tasty Donuts, which we got the Castle Burgers there, too, and everything. But you got Tasty Donuts and, of course, the unholy scourge, Krispy Kreme, which... I mean,
controversial.
There's nothing like getting a dozen hot Krispy Kreme donuts.
Yeah.
And you can't just eat, you know, 5 or 6. Like, you will tear open that whole box.
You will in that box.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But with that being said, so I'd like to talk a little bit about ammonia. Back on the subject here. So ammonia is one of those weird things where it really doesn't help you lift more per se, but it almost becomes for some guys like ritualistic. I mean, it opens up, it gives you a little jolt. It opens up your airway, and it's one of those things where I'll be honest with you. I'm pulling the trigger pretty much this weekend on some Skull Smash, because ammonia is one of those things where I've always wanted to play around with. But I've only tried like one version of smelling salts, and then I was like done.
It's probably the generic white bottle, huh? Nose.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's so. I like people, all right, and I like getting to know people and what they do for, I don't know, the industries or communities that they're in, whatever have you. And Steve is just such a good guy. Like I said, he's my first and only sponsor, and he still sponsors me to this day. And he. And one day he cited the source for it, what it actually does. And I believe it doesn't make you produce adrenaline. What it does is it expedites the rate in which your body utilizes oxygen.
Right.
So it does, in a sense, speed you up. And I tell you what, if you have a whiff of... And the other great thing about Skull Smash is I bought Nose Torque at the beginning because that's what everybody starts off with, or either poppers or, the white bottle.
Yeah.
Nose Torque's fucking gone in like a month or two. Like, you will get nothing out of that bottle. Right. I don't know what the hell Steve did to get the formula for the duration that his shit lasts, but I just threw away a bottle that he sent me like 8 months ago that I was still getting good whiffs out of.
Yeah.
So not only does his stuff last, you're helping out somebody that actually contributes to the entire powerlifting community. If you're big on veterans, which, I don't know why anybody wouldn't be. I mean, he served the
Yeah.
country. It's small business, and you're really helping out somebody. And his stuff is just, I mean, he really put his heart and soul into it, and it lasts and it works, man. You can be
Hey,
tired as fuck, dude, but you take a whiff of that stuff, and I almost guarantee you a PR.
you sold me at veteran. I mean, I've got two active or one active member of military in my family, but I've got three formerly active. So
Awesome, man.
it's near and dear to my heart. But with that being said, let's now shift, and we're gonna kind of close up here. I like to do some questions and answers at the end of these things. So are you cool with that?
Yeah,
You can help me out on that today. So with that being said, with all that being said, you are going to compete in the 198s. When is your next meet, and what are some numbers you're working on right now?
I am going to do the Southern Strength Showcase.
Okay.
Kimmy Brooks meet that she puts on. She's our Louisiana state chairman for the USPA, and she just started recently put on weight meets, and she took on a burden as being our state chairman. And
Right.
her husband's another big shot powerlifter, Tyler Brooks. I mean, he's just those people that are just cock strong, just country strong.
Yeah.
He is one of those behemoths, and they're both good people, man. And I think this will be the third Southern Strength Showcase.
Yeah.
And it's in November. So I am aiming for at least to finally break to 1700s, or my dream would be to get to 1730, which is international elite total for 198 wrapped.
Well, I mean, with the progress that you've made, and I've kind of checked that out a little bit. I'll be honest with you. I liked your picture from like 6 or 7 months ago, so I'm a little bit of a creep.
That's all right, man.
But when it comes down to it, you progressed quite a bit. I think you could do 1800.
That would be one of the ultimate goals. Like I said, my biggest obstacle, Bryce, is my leg. Like, even I forget that it doesn't, and it will never function like a normal human being's leg. Like, I will still go.
I understand that.
It just sucks, man. But that's where your big numbers come from in powerlifting, is the squat and deadlift. But I think
I don't know, man.
With the
I don't know, man.
pulling.
Bench, you can get 535. I believe in you.
Well, I tell you what, man. Like I said, and Louis says strength is measured in time. My ultimate goal one day is to at least reach that, that 5 plates, the 495 on each side. Which you gotta be realistic in your things. I can't even say it without having a bit of an ego, but I did smoke at 446. So
you did, yeah.
My next stop in November would hopefully be around, and that's shooting for the stars, would probably be a 460 press, and just keep going on and on. Because, like I said, man, my family's I got decent genetics for it. My dad's insanely strong for never taking anything heavier than muscle milk, which he just liked because LSU took it.
Hell yeah.
And
yeah.
my uncle is incredibly strong, but I
back
think
in the day, that was the best.
Training optimally.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I watching some of your videos. I mean, you seem to, and I know it's a lot of hard work getting the movement patterns and all down, but you seem to be very natural when it comes to being underneath the bar.
Well,
and that's something that when you look at somebody like, I'm guessing it could do, justice in pictures or videos, but I would personally like to come and see one of your meets, because you do look like you're pretty comfortable underneath the bar, and you look like you have some nice biomechanics to work with that. I mean,
thank you, man. But I tell you what, man, y'all are always welcome down here in NOLA. Y'all can come stay with us. If you absolutely would like to make a trip down here, the French Quarter is especially something to see if you've never been.
We have never been.
Man,
But
maybe I'll come down here in November, dude.
I nothing's out of the question. We got to close on this house though. We're closing the 25th, and we'll be in our first residential house.
Oh, that's it.
So
Dude, it's no feeling like getting the keys to your own domain, man. And
I
I'm
know.
getting back there.
I'm already making plans on doing grilling out there and drinking a little bit of IPA. What have you got on deck, by the way? What's your drink of choice right now?
Well, for the longest time, I like beer darker than your goddamn tires.
Yeah.
But somebody turned me on to IPAs, which I hated for the longest time. But the problem was I never tasted a good IPA. So we have these two local ones from Gnarly Barley, which is Jucifer, and
I like that name.
Parish Brewing. They make Ghost in the Machine, which is fucking phenomenal. It's the best beer I've ever had in my life, and it's an IPA, and it's seasonal.
Well, there's a couple different endorsements for you guys. That leads us on to, I think, the question and answer portion. So we do have a question, but I think you kind of already answered it. So we have somebody saying that they're stuck at 315 bench.
That's a milestone, man. It is.
Yeah. I would just give it some time. Don't expect to throw on 5 pounds in this week or the next week. If you're already repping 315, which he didn't say if it was for 1 or if it was for 5 or whatever. I don't know what his.
Here's the thing, man. But and I actually got the cure to it. I didn't discover it, but for a while I actually used Garrett's trainer that he had for a bit. This guy up in New Jersey, Hoboken, Jason Manninkoff, and he programmed me for a while, and I was stuck. I don't know, maybe at like 340 or something, and I couldn't break it. And I told Manninkoff, I said, I want a 405 bench. I said, can you get me there? He said, yeah. He said, you just do exactly what the hell I tell you to do. So he had me benching 3 times a week.
Oh, yeah, frequency.
I really didn't get that power until I started implementing it. I think it was maybe 70% of what I could put up for 3 sets of 3 with 3-second pauses on my chest. And I mean real honest 3-second pauses. Yeah. Or you could just go, like I'm condoning, is the conjugate method. And you attack all your weaknesses. And if you're slow off the chest, well, you got weak lats. If you're bench press has very little to do with the chest. It is mostly lats and triceps. Your lats propel it off your chest, and your triceps drive it home. And wherever you're weak with, you've got to do. I tell you what, and I'm in no way, shape, or form affiliated with him. I wish I was, but if you download Matt Wenning's Conjugate Secrets, the Volume 1, he breaks down the conjugate system to where a 5-year-old child could understand it. You start with that, and I guarantee you will start progressively making gains like you could not believe on all of your numbers across the board.
Yeah. The next question here, I completely agree with all of that. I mean, the main thing too is to don't be afraid to do the thing that you're trying to get better at more often. So if you would normally do something like, and I'm guessing that these are like people that are asking these questions are in the 1 to 4 year training age, I guess you would say. And when it comes down to it, I mean, if you're doing barbell bench press and you want to get stronger at barbell bench press, but you're only doing barbell bench press once a week, and you're doing dumbbell bench press the other day of the week, switch that to barbell.
Well, you got to look, too. It's frequency, like you said.
Yeah.
I hit the barbell on pressing twice a week. I've just done 2 years worth of work in your 1 year if you're only pressing once a week. I can't handle 3 times a week pressing, even though Laura calls for it sometimes, which there are in-between days in conjugate training where it's lightweight, but it's just for blood flow and basically a good old bro pump.
Right.
Because Louis likes to attack everything, man, and even Wenning says it in his seminar that I watched. You're only as strong as your foundation, and the biggest foundation is your GPP, which is your general physical preparedness. If you are not fit enough to accommodate a bigger workload, well, your pyramid's going to be a lot smaller than somebody with a giant foundation in that. That's why bodybuilders do so well when they transition to powerlifting, because their foundation for GPP is significantly better than, somebody who gets out of breath going up the stairs, but they got a strong, press because they can bounce it off their chest.
Well, I think it also comes down to people being, another big issue is people being just abusing variation. I mean, for God's sakes, they're doing barbell bench press, then they're doing dumbbell flies, and they're doing dumbbell bench press, and then they're doing decline bench press, and they're doing incline bench press, and they're doing hammer strength machines, all in the same chest workout.
Right, and you can definitely overkill it. I hate that phrase that there's no such thing as overtraining. That is bullshit. Unless you're some superhuman that escaped from a fucking lab, you can absolutely overtrain. I don't care what anyone says.
That's something that Jamie and I disagree on as well.
Jamie is, a former world record holder, and Jamie is just, he's one of those freaks that just, they got it, man. But us normal guys,
us mortals,
can overtrain.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was going through a little bit of a issue not so long ago where I was almost, I don't know, it was weird, like my blood pressure was dropping and my whatever, but when I did 3 things, I was getting vertigo and I was getting all this stuff. When I did 3 things, all of that went away. The entirety of my symptoms went away, and it bugs the crap out of me that I don't know what was wrong with me. I reduced volume significantly, right? So I'm doing more of a block periodization, or let me phrase that, a block style training to control my volume is what it is. And then I took a break completely off stimulants.
Yeah,
and then
that can take a toll on you too, man.
And then I completely I started adding more warm up stuff because I'm 27. I'm 27, but sometimes because of how much I sit and everything like this, I have the body of a 40-year-old man, and I paid my price for my obesity in that regards too. So. I have to go in there in the gym and do my baseline right now is 10 minutes a little warm up of just walking on the treadmill, just because I'm a morning trainee, right. And then dynamic stretches or dynamic work, maybe with the bar, maybe with nothing, just to get some blood flow into the areas, and then I start my workout. So it's like it's a 15-minute, 20-minute thing, but it makes everything just, you hit that groove, Well,
I'll tell you what, man, you hit on it because, God, I remember, because I like you, man, I went through everything to try to find the best that I possibly could, but, the truth is the cookie cutter shit doesn't work. That's why I'm such a fan of conjugate, because conjugate is a system that you tailor it to your specific weaknesses, and you attack those weaknesses. But what I found at the beginning was, even reading Brandon Lilly's Cube Method book when I first started out and stuff, he says that it just blows his mind that people will just move right to barbell work. And even winning is huge on that. And now I have a ritual, and I'm much smarter because I want to be in this game for at least another 10 years.
Yeah.
And I do, just my bench warm-up alone is I will do the same thing now. I'll do just tricep extensions. I'll do 4 sets of 50 with elbow sleeves on, and that's the only time I wear elbow sleeves. I will do, and I took note from, like I said, I like to get, rich advice from rich people. Steffi Cohen, she is awesome for putting out just a bunch of knowledge, and
oh my god, yeah,
one of the best powerlifters ever.
Oh my god, yeah, she
said that
makes me feel sad,
dude. She is just incredible. but she said that scapular movement is hugely neglected in benching warm-up, and it's true because we really don't. So I started doing a lot of face pulls and band pull-aparts in my warm-up session, and it has made a huge difference. I mean, as you could see, because, dude, I was stuck at a 429 press for about, I don't know, a year and a half in competition. I would never get anything over that. And now that I started, I got Laura's help and started doing the warm-ups and stuff that, Winning and Steffi Cohen and stuff had touched on, magically my bench just went up after an 18-pound cut.
Yeah.
My bench flew up in that meet, and it wasn't in an AC meet or anything like that. We were outside, in the South, in southern Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
In that kind of condition, I had the best bench press performance I've ever had in my life. And I attribute it to training, like Louis says, optimally, which you're trying to fire on all cylinders, man. You got your base work, you got your warm-ups, and if you're going to break your own PRs like you do in conjugate training, which it changes every single week, when you come back to that, you don't say, oh, I'm going to smoke this by 20, 25 pounds today. No, you just smoke about 5 pounds. And that consistent gain over the course of a year, let's say you touch on it, I don't know, once a month or once every other month, you've just either added 30 to 60 pounds onto that lift. People would pay a lot of money for you to be able to do that for them.
Yeah, no shit. I mean, do you realize how much 15 to 30 pounds matters, like, on the top tier of things?
Oh, hugely.
I mean,
you can't replace that feeling.
That's world records. That's world records.
And that's the secret to some of those pros too. Like another favorite lifter of mine to keep track of is I got to meet him at the last Southern Strength Showcase. Is that Joe Sullivan dude? He is just so goddamn strong. It's ridiculous. And he didn't start out with a gifted total either. I think he got to working with Chris Duffin, and he just consistency, dedication, and he put in the fucking work, man. And that's the big secret to it that nobody wants to hear. You just put in the work.
Yeah. So that's kind of a roundabout way of explaining how you break past your bench press plateau, but I fucking dig it.
Well, it's like that, Bryce. I mean, that's why I don't believe in linear periodization, because you are not always going to be able to hit certain percentages. So let's say I'm really feeling like shit. I mean, my lats are sore. It's supposed to be max effort press day. It's like, well, goddamn, man, I can't bring the bar that far down. I feel like shit, because I'm a human and I'm not one of these gods of powerlifting. Okay, I know what I'll do today. Let me break my 3-board press. Or let me throw in the fucking slingshot, break that record. Or, let me do floor pressing. As long as you keep moving and you keep changing, your body doesn't have that ability to go, oh, you're pretty good at benching, so I'm going to just call it quits here. I don't see the need for you to get any stronger. Well, if you're always changing, which is conjugate, what you're doing, and you're always making your body get a little bit better, it can never figure out what the fuck you're doing. So it always sees a need to improve. And that's basically conjugate in a nutshell, is you're just continuously changing everything and improving.
Yeah, and I think people severely underestimate the power of every little variable that you can tweak. You should be deep into, right?
It is, man, and it comes with wisdom and time, like you said. You're not going to be, you're not going to be this god of powerlifting. You may never be, but you know what? You can always get better, and you're only going to get better by sitting there and learning, what you specifically need. And like I said, there's the information is out there for you to go seek it. After I hurt my knee, I knew that I needed to become a very good squatter if I was going to squat. So I started watching videos of Sam Bird. I learned how Boris Shiko teaches all of his Russian students who are all lifters how to squat. He has them do wall squats, which you stand against a wall and you move closer and closer until you can open up like that. And if you lean forward, you're going to hit your goddamn head on the wall. So you'll know if you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. Simple techniques can make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
And with that being said, I think the most important thing too is, you know, and I'm gonna shoot back to something you said, is like time. You know, time is the factor that everybody doesn't want to face. And if you have a 315 bench now and you look back and it's the same in a year, then you know that what you did didn't work, and it's probably time to change things.
You'll get past it, man. Just do what I did, because I like I told you, man, I'm so retarded sometimes, and I forgive people if that offends them using a word, but
fuck it.
I didn't have an iPhone for a long time. I just got an iPhone because my girlfriend is deaf, and iPhone, their software syncs up with her hearing aids. So then naturally one thing led to another, and I discovered podcasts. Listen to all of Louie's podcasts. And in fact, actually the best episode I've ever heard was when Louie did Joe Rogan, and it was just completely unadulterated, just raw Louie Simmons. And I mean, if that shit doesn't get you fired up, I mean, nothing will. Or listen to Jamie's rants.
And I think that kind of ends it for us. Well, guys, thanks for sticking with us, and I think this went fucking spectacular, man. I really do appreciate you coming on.
No, dude, I enjoyed myself, man.
These next couple episodes, just so you guys are aware, will be with differing guests. Like I said before, I want the Hatecast to be a collective of information that people can kind of pull from. And speaking to individuals like yourself, and speaking to individuals like, we have 2 more guests. I'm not going to say who, but we have 2 more guests right now that have pretty interesting stories as well. I've actually gained a little bit of knowledge from this podcast, doing it myself. So I hope you guys did too. And with that being said, if you have any questions that you would like to be answered, please post them in the comments section below. I will have links to everything we talked about in the description box, including where to buy a Skull Smash with a discount code, which is
Vlad-10.
Vlad-10. And support a vet, and see if you can't make some PRs while you're at it. And I think that about does it for us, guys, and we will see you later. As a treat for the guys who made it this far in the video, thank you so much, and here's some footage of Andrew lifting.
Andrew Lorino is the last leg presser on this flight. 446 pounds on the ball for Lorino. Competing in the 198. Andrew Lorino.